anti-military dictatorship, and we would, be part of, there were protests. I knew nothing about the politics over here,
I would imagine, yeah.
I didn't even know what a Democrat or a Republican was.
Right.
And in the first few years of your marriage, you have with the Parents Association, which meant I was constantly everywhere.
Yeah.
And that way, it was I would go around in my shalwar kameez, and people got used to me.
Right.
And once they get used to you, they get used to your children.
Okay.
That my values were the values of the Democratic Party.
Okay.
Candidates, running campaigns, selecting candidates. It's a very democratic process by which only way you're sure of winning an election if you're running unopposed. Elected bodies were usually white men.
Yes.
Then you got a few African American, black men, and some women started breaking the glass ceilings and getting in.
Yeah.
Now, in a place like New Jersey, it's slowly becoming more diverse.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to New Wave of Naya Daur. This is Amina. Navigating political corridors through any outfit is very, very challenging, but doing it across continents and winning such high laurels is no small feat. Starting off as a young political activist back in Pakistan, serving as a secretary to First Lady of Pakistan, Mohtarma Nusrat Bhutto, and then continuing her journey here in US after her immigration. She served as a councilwoman twice on the Tenafly Borough of New Jersey, and then finally got elected as the first Muslim Pakistani representative to State Legislature of New Jersey. What a commendable journey. Today I'm in conversation with Ms. Shama Haider. Thank you, Shama, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure having you here. So, were you always politically motivated, or is this story a consequence of circumstances?
I think when I was in college, what really got me moving and involved was the military dictatorship at that time. All of us students, usually it's the students who are the first line of activism. So we were all very anti-military dictatorship, and we would, be part of, there were protests going on. You're too young to remember that, but there were protests going on, and we would participate on those. And of course, my ideal at that time was Mr. Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, because he was going to bring democracy to Pakistan and change. And he was a man of the people. We never had a politician like him, at least not in my, when I was growing up.
Right.
We did not know somebody, any politician who stood up and talked for the people. So it was like a light bulb going off in my head, that this is possible. This is what it's really all about.
Yeah.
And then once you get into it, you do it, it becomes part of your nature. You can't, because it's really, the whole thing is about obtaining justice for people. That's what that's what it's all about. And once you've got it, you cannot let go of it. So that's what got you started. That's what got me started.
So you're not from a political family?
Not at all. No. My dad was worked for the government, so he was not allowed to participate in.
So there was no politics at home.
Well, very little. Let's say private politics at home.
Just like we have those dinner table conversations.
Yes, just like that. Just like that.
Okay.
Yes.
So it was just that military dictatorship and Zulfikar Ali Bhutto's rise against it that motivated you.
Absolutely.
So how did you end up being the secretary to the First Lady? In Pakistan, it's mostly hierarchical, dynastical politics.
I told you my dad was in the government.
Okay.
And this will be a bit of a letdown. My mom and Mrs. Bhutto were very good friends.
Okay.
And when Mrs. Bhutto became the wife of then Mr. Bhutto was president, she wanted somebody to work for her who really she could trust.
Okay.
Because she was close to my mother. She'd seen us all her life, sort of, around her.
Growing up, yeah.
So she asked my sister and myself first to just come and, we were basically volunteering and helping, because, it was overwhelming in the beginning.
Right, yeah.
So that's how it started.
Okay. And then quite a transition, right? You're so close to the First Lady. If you had wanted to, you probably could have climbed the political ladder over there and probably faster. Then how did you end up being here?
Another very let down. I got married to a man who lived here.
Okay. All right. So not by choice, right?
It just happened.
Yeah.
One of those things.
Okay. But mostly it's not easy, especially for a woman moving in 1977. Is that when you
Yes.
immigrated?
Yes.
Yeah. So coming here to a person who's already married here, probably settled in their life, and this is a completely different outfit
It was
for you.
a big culture shock, let me
Yes,
tell you.
that's
It was
what I
a
was gonna
big
say.
culture shock in the first couple of years. I knew nothing about the politics over
Yeah.
here.
I would imagine, yeah.
I didn't even know what a Democrat or a Republican was.
Right.
And in the first few years of your marriage, you're having children, you're
Right.
raising families,
Yes.
you're trying to find your way around.
Right.
So it was, in the beginning, of course, it was a learning period.
Mm-hmm.
I was raising the family, trying to learn my way around. So in the first few years, I really did nothing much in politics. But once we moved, we used to live in a different town. Once we moved here and my kids were in school, that's when I realized I had to get involved because we were
Because at heart you remained a politician?
No, because we were one of maybe 2 or 3 brown families in the town.
Ah.
And I felt that, when I took my kids to school, went to visit the school and I saw the composition, I knew I had to do something to make my children feel like part of the community.
Yes.
So I got involved with the Parents Association, which meant I was constantly everywhere.
Yeah.
And that way it was I would go around in my shalwar kameez and, people got used to me.
Right.
And once they get used to you, they get used to your children.
Yeah.
So that was my first motivation.
To get yourself integrated into the community.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Get integrated. I became the chair of the Parents Association. And I got, we started an international day in our school. So of course I said the first country we have to do is Pakistan.
Yeah.
So that's how I started becoming involved in the community. And then when you live in a community, there are so many other things you can do. There are many boards and commissions, and I must have served on each and every one of them. I
Okay.
was on the environmental commission, on the planning board, etc., etc., etc.
So there was no fast track.
No.
So you went from board to commission to commission.
And then I became involved with the Democratic. By then I had learned
Okay.
that my values were the values of the Democratic Party.
Okay.
Surprisingly at that time when I moved in the 70s, 99.99% Pakistanis you would meet, they were all Republicans.
I was going to say that's a very different mindset from what I would have expected back in the day.
They were all Republicans.
Because Democrats are more seen as, more liberals and coming from a Pakistani society where there's conservatism
everywhere
is
I
predominant.
went, they were
Yes.
all Republicans. And when I told people, no, I am a Democrat, they would look at me like I've had horns or something,
Yeah.
I used to be the only Democrat in the room, believe me.
I
It's
can totally.
only after 9/11 that suddenly all those Republicans became Democrats.
Okay.
But really, I couldn't understand how they could be Republicans. My mindset was very progressive. I could not. Once I learned about the two parties,
Right.
there was no way I was going to be anything but a Democrat.
Today I can totally relate with that, but for you to have had that vision back then, like almost 40 years ago.
It's just the same. It's the same thing that I was learning growing up of doing things for your community, doing things for people,
Right.
bringing the poor up. This is what we were learning from our political activism there.
Right.
So I there was no way I was going to be anything but a Democrat.
Yeah.
And so I got in.
That's where your values were, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So then I got involved with the Democratic Party in my town.
Okay.
And in New Jersey, every town has an elected committee by state constitution. One Republican committee, one Democratic committee.
Okay.
And we are the ones who select the candidates and do the campaigns and all. And I eventually became the chair, and I'm still the chair of it.
Okay.
So then, I got involved.
So chair of the town committee.
Chair of the Democratic committee in my town.
In your town, okay.
Which is like.
So there are two. There's a Republican and there's a Democratic. Yeah.
Which would be, I would say, in Pakistani terms, the equivalent of the local party. You know. So
Got it.
I'm the local Democratic Party chair.
Okay. Gotcha.
So then I was also very involved with local candidates, running campaigns, selecting candidates. It's a very democratic process by which we do this. It's not that I go and say you're going to be the candidate.
Yeah.
The committee has to vote.
Elect.
Yeah. So, and then I ran for office. I ran once, I ran a second time. I lost my first election.
Oh, you did?
Of course, who doesn't?
Yeah, that's true.
I lost my first election.
So was that for the council?
For the council.
Okay.
So my friends in the committee said, no, you have to run again. I lost my second election.
Okay.
But my friends loved me. They said, you have to run again.
You've got some good friends.
So I ran the third time and I got elected.
So third time was a charm.
Absolutely.
Okay. And then you got elected again.
Then I gave up for a long while because I was doing other things, and then I ran again.
Okay.
And after that, when my term was over, I was back to doing for me, I love the campaign. I love the politics side of it.
Okay.
It's very invigorating. It's very, it gives you a lot of energy.
Gets your adrenaline.
Gets your adrenaline running. So I love doing that.
Okay.
The legislative side is nice.
Yeah.
But it's kind of,
more laid back.
Also laid back. It's works at government pace, which is slow.
Yeah.
But it's still fun.
Right.
But it's really the campaigning that I love.
Yeah.
So then when I got this,
so that's why you were more involved in getting the candidates, going to campaigns. Then
and we would go door to door. I must have walked this down at least 10 times, door to door. We do a lot of door to door. This is real grassroots campaigning when you're doing a local town,
Okay.
You go door to door, you stand outside the post office, you hand
out
out your
like big
flyers.
rallies that we see on
no,
TV.
there's no such thing as rallies. We go and stand outside the post office, we stand outside the Grand Union, the grocery store, that's how local politics is, very, very grassroots level.
Okay.
So you get to see
you just have
people.
to delve into the community. You have to get to know people. You have to become totally a people's
and you
person.
also have to be prepared to hear good and bad. And because people will not hold back.
Of course.
They will not hold
Yeah.
back. So, but you have to just take it and smile and move on.
Yeah.
That's
That's probably a very challenging part of your job, because like you said, people are not always going to be nice.
No,
people, and they're going to have grievances. Somebody wanted this and this didn't happen. A lot of times they don't understand what was the reasoning behind it, but this is what they wanted.
Yeah.
And then it's probably a challenge for you to hold your own and, be patient and still try to appease them.
Yes, you have to try. But the thing is, you don't run away from it.
Yeah.
Somebody comes up to you and says something contradictory to what you are trying to do, or downright nasty.
Yeah.
I remember when I first ran, it was a heavily Republican town then.
Oh, was it?
Oh, yes. When I moved into this town, it was an all-Republican town.
Oh, very interesting.
We, the Democrats, have moved into a Democratic town. But it was a heavily Republican town, and it was a different era. It was a different mindset.
Right.
And I was running, and I was standing outside, I think, the grocery store or someplace handing out my flyers.
Okay.
And this woman turned to me. She looked at me, and she said, "You don't even know how to speak English."
Oh my God.
And I gave her my widest smile. I said, "Thank you," and let her go. So what do?
Yeah.
You can't let it get to you.
Yeah.
You can't become angry. You can't become despondent. You just have to move on.
And besides, you can't go around defending every objection or
you
such.
cannot. It's not possible.
So it's I think the approach you took was probably the best. Just take it with a smile and move on.
Move on.
You weren't going to stand there and prove your efficiency in English to her.
No.
Yeah.
And the truth is, if I lost her vote, maybe I'll get somebody else's.
Yeah.
When you're running for office, you focus on who's going to vote for
Right.
me.
True. That's true. And moving forward, if you see, just coming back to that question where she said, "Hey, you don't even know how to speak English," and then you run for state legislature, and your whole when you win the election, your running mate, the senator.
It was the most diverse ticket in New Jersey.
Yes.
The senator was a black man.
Yes.
My running mate was the first Korean American who got elected. She was my running mate and me. There was no more a diverse ticket in the state.
Right.
And we were
And you all won.
We all won.
Yeah.
Handily, by the way.
Yes.
Handily.
Yeah, that's what I saw. So that just goes to show, you were talking about how that was your first election, right? And then you got that where they said you don't even know how to speak English, and then down the lane in just so many years, here you are winning the state legislature, first Muslim, first woman, first Pakistani, and you have a Korean, and then you have an African American senator. That just shows how this whole mindset, the outset has changed.
We hope so. We hope a lot more work is needed. You can see what's been happening.
Yeah.
But we are very lucky. We are in a very diverse district, and New Jersey generally tends to be more blue than red, but not always, because we have elected Republican governors and re-elected Republican governors. So, in election, nothing is ever sure. Somebody very wise in politics said to me, the only way you're sure of winning an election if you're running unopposed. So even in a safe district.
Eliminate competition.
Exactly. Even in a safe district.
Yeah.
Where you may think, the majority of the registered are Democrats, we'll win this.
Yeah.
No guarantees. No guarantees. And we've seen that happen way too often to be disregarded.
Yeah, so never take it for granted. That's the lesson.
Yep.
In politics.
Never.
Yeah. Okay. So, I see that you've been very involved in the upbringing of the community of your town, your district. I've seen multiple bills sponsored by you for the welfare of the community, especially pertaining to domestic violence, women empowerment. So, is that something that an area that you've always focused on and that's close to your heart?
It is one of the areas that is close to my heart.
Okay.
You too often, and this is cross-cultural, too often you read an item of a woman being killed by a domestic partner.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The highest number of gun deaths is usually domestic partners. Women are killed by domestic partners. It's usually women more than men.
Yeah.
And for all the trainings you're given by the police are given, for all the support that is out there, it still happens way too often. So any little thing you can do to make the laws stronger, to make it
harder, yeah,
and to educate people how to deal with it. It's not that the police doesn't want to deal with it. In years past, they didn't even know how to deal with it. There would be an incident in a house, a police would come, but it was considered a private matter in those days.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now, at least we've moved to the point where it is a crime and it has to be dealt with.
Yeah.
But still, there are many, many loopholes. There's so many, and really, no one bill can cover everything.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
So, you have to keep, and then sometimes what happens, a situation arises which nobody had even thought of. And so you say, like with the boom in technology, who thought of these sort of sex bullying by thing and all these things never existed when we were growing up. We never had cell phones.
Yeah.
So new things come into play, and the old laws.
And then the legislature.
You have to run to catch up with it.
Yes.
So I would love that there be more bills. We had a huge domestic violence package passed in the assembly recently, and I hope a lot of those laws will strengthen the way law enforcement can help these women.
Yeah, no, that's very commendable, and that's an area that gets ignored very frequently, very often. There's a small population which doesn't really have a voice of its own, so they just kind of
it's like that. Women who are suffering that are not going to be their own advocates. That's the sad part.
Yeah.
So it's very, very important. It's very important. And I was lucky last year, we allowed a certain number of budget requests. I was able to get funding for a domestic violence organization. It's called Wafa House. It is run by a Middle Eastern group of women, but it focuses on Muslim women. So you see, then you're coming into a place where people actually can go to people who are like them and understand them, because in different cultures, this whole issue is dealt with differently.
And different religions deal with it differently. Yeah. So a Muslim woman might not be comfortable going to.
I mean, she may not be comfortable going to anybody, but if she sees somebody like herself, she's in hijab, they are in hijab, it makes her comfortable.
They can relate. So,
I know there are shelters for Desi women, for South Asian women.
Okay.
So, we have to encourage more of these so that people feel more, the victims feel more comfortable going there.
And they should be advertised or propagated more too, because I'm sure a lot of people are not even aware that such things exist.
Costs money.
I know.
Everything costs money.
That's where it comes down to.
It always comes down to that.
Yes. And I see that in your other sponsorships of bills that you've also been an advocate of minorities. Like you were part of the bill that was sponsored to designate January as Muslim Heritage Month.
I'm very happy that actually passed. Just to start it before I even got elected.
Okay.
My colleague Assemblywoman McKnight posted the bill, and it has been working its way through slowly, and I was very happy to jump on and be a sponsor of the bill. And on 30th of March, when we had our last voting session, the bill was voted.
Okay, so
so now we're just waiting for the governor to sign it.
Okay, so it's just a matter of
a matter
of when he gets to that signature.
He'll get to it.
Right. And then there's also a bill about the lunar year.
That my colleague Ellen Park, who's a Korean, she brought it up, and so a lot. Here's what happens.
Yeah.
When you have a group of and I'm not being bigoted here,
right?
But generally, elected bodies were usually white men.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Then you got a few African American, black men, and some women started breaking the glass ceilings and getting in.
Yeah.
Now, in a place like New Jersey, it's slowly becoming more diverse.
Okay.
We are now a caucus of 7 Asian American Pacific AAPI.
Okay.
So we have 1, 2, 3 of Indian origin, and there's 2 of us now who are Pakistani, and and of course Ellen. So when more people come in, then bills like this will move.
Right,
also.
because like you said, if they're all white men, they're not going to think of minorities. It probably doesn't even cross their mind. And you can't fault them for that.
You cannot blame them.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying.
You cannot blame them for thinking of, we should do something for Muslim Heritage Month.
Yeah, why would
they probably don't even know.
No, exactly. So you have to have representation to bring it to people's attention.
And I tell you one thing that's happened in this year. The Muslim community in Bergen County has become very active. We're not huge in numbers. Mm-hmm. And this year they had like 30 towns in Bergen County, they had Ramadan lightings. They lit up crescents. I went to practically many of them. And then they would have like little food they would serve, so that at iftar you could break your iftar there and all. In some places they actually would even offer Maghrib prayers over there. Wow. So, and of course in every town, the governing body came, residents came. So this has been an extraordinary effort by the Muslim community in Bergen County to introduce themselves.
Yeah.
And it has been so well, I cannot believe how well received it is by the residents and also by the governing bodies. And that's what's going to start making a difference.
Definitely.
People will look around and say, that's so-and-so, she was at the lighting.
Right.
So I think finally the Muslims I used to beg people to run. I used to beg people to register to vote, Muslims and Pakistani origin. Then I gave up because
they weren't interesting. Yeah.
But now they have. I think we, the immigrants, had a different. A lot of immigrants still want to think of only back home.
Right.
But the new generation who are born and raised here, like my children, they're Americans.
Yes.
So they're now bringing their own identity forward. And I think that is so important.
I totally agree with you. I cannot agree more with you over here at this point, because like you said, the immigrants were all about what you're doing for people back home, or
And also remember, immigrants come and their only focus is, I have to make it good here.
yes,
And usually immigrants do very well.
they do. Yeah, we've all done well.
All our communities, whether they are Indians, Pakistanis, Chinese, Koreans, all of these communities have done extremely well,
Right.
because they've put their head down and worked.
Yes.
We would tell our kids, no, you have to study, you have to
Yes.
study, you have to do,
Yes.
do this, do that.
This
So
is Desi mentality,
the
right?
total
Or
Desi mentality.
Just study and
You have to
get
be the
it.
doctor, you have to
Yeah.
be the engineer, you have to
Right.
be the lawyer,
Right. Right.
And I say we as a collective community, we have focused on that, and that is a fantastic focus to have, by the way,
Yes.
because now those kids can become the leaders of the community.
Right.
Now they can move forward and they can very comfortably run for president.
They can, yeah. But I coming back to the point that you were trying to make, I really want to highlight it, and because that's extremely important, because like you said, now we live here, right? We have children here who were born here. They're very proud Pakistani Americans, but we need to give them their identity here.
Absolutely.
We need to build a community for them here. They, like you said, that Bergen County Muslim community is becoming very visible, very vocal. They celebrated Ramadan, they held meetings, taraweehs, iftars everywhere. So that's where we come in, where you come in, because back then there was no representation. Now we have Muslim representation. Now we have Pakistani representation. So now we can identify as a community over here, which, and I'm not taking away from the fact that we should not be doing things for people back home, or that should not be our consideration. But at the same time, we're raising a generation over here. So we need to identify with them too, and we need to provide them a platform over here to exist as Pakistani Muslims, Pakistani Americans over here, and be recognized as such. And
Absolutely.
that's where you are a role model.
Well, I hope so, because
Yeah,
I have, everywhere I go, I have only one request from the people. I am not going to be in this position for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
We want somebody. I was speaking to a bunch of people and I said to them, listen, I am not going to be in this job forever.
Yeah.
We have to find somebody who comes up
Yes.
and is involved.
Yeah.
What my dream is, that my
Your
seat,
legacy continues,
my
right?
seat becomes the known Muslim seat. Oh, we have to
Yes.
find a Muslim candidate
Right.
for that seat.
Yes.
That's how we will get people in the legislature. We know that there are certain districts where you have to only find black candidates there, otherwise it won't work. You
Right,
know?
yeah.
Oh no, that area, it has to be an Italian guy, otherwise it's not. So this seat should become. That seat should really only go to a Muslim.
Yeah.
And for that, you need to build a bench. You
Right.
need to have people to get involved. I've met some really wonderful people in this journey, especially the young people, and I'm
Right.
trying to encourage them, get involved. Okay, you're a doctor, but you can make time to do stuff like this also.
Right.
So this is my only goal now, as apart from working my job as an assemblywoman.
Yeah.
My secondary thing is that I must make sure that Muslims get involved and be the ones who will now move forward and take these seats.
Yes, and in that thing, you have to obviously set a great precedent, right? Because you are elected as a member of the legislature for this district, right?
Absolutely.
So you're representing this district. So yes, you're a Pakistani. Yes, you're a Muslim. But then, first and foremost, you are a representative of this
Absolutely.
district. Right?
This district elected me.
Yes.
My first and foremost duty is to ensure that this
Right.
district gets the best of everything. That I can do the people's job here.
Right.
That if people have an issue, we can resolve that issue. That we make bills that will benefit this area.
Right.
That is the most important. I was not elected by Muslims.
Right. Uh-huh.
There were Muslim voters.
Yes.
But
that was
that
not-
was
yeah.
not the majority. The majority was Democrats. We have
Right.
to start thinking of that also.
Yes.
In fact, recently somebody called me and said, "Oh, I'm trying to put together some documents about how Pakistanis and all should run for office. So when you were running, who was your first group you went to?" I said, "The best voting Democrats."
Yeah.
And after the discussion was over, he says, I'm surprised. I talked to another Muslim Pakistani candidate, and they said, well, I approached the Pakistanis. I said, no, you have to go to your voters.
Yes, because those are the ones you're representing. Those are the...
Absolutely.
Yes, yes.
I have to be a representative of this district.
Yes.
That I'm a Muslim, that I'm a Pakistani is incidental to
Right.
it. I was not, I'm not going around. If you look at my bills, I'm on the Environment Committee,
Yeah.
I'm on the Transportation Committee, and I purposely asked for these committees because this is a very transit-heavy district. We're right next to the George Washington Bridge.
Right.
Public transportation is a major issue in this district. And because of the high density, environment is a major issue.
True.
So I wanted to focus on that.
So it's just making the point that you are focusing on the problems of the area.
Of course, that's my job. That's what I've been elected for.
And I think, the way you can propagate yourself as a good Pakistani and as a good Muslim also is by setting up a good precedence, doing the job that you're supposed to do, right? And that's how you would create a pathway for future Muslims, for future Pakistanis.
Because they should be able to say, that's a good group. They really focused on the job.
Yes, yeah.
And in the United States, you can't commingle your religion and your politics in a way,
Yeah.
So I want to be elected for what I'm doing for the district.
Right.
Not for the color of my skin.
Right.
That happens to be there. That cannot change. I mean, I'm going to be an immigrant. I'm going to be a woman of color. I'm going to be.
That's who you are.
That's who I am.
Right.
But it's the job you do for the people who voted for you, which is your prime responsibility.
Yeah, and I don't understand why sometimes people have different expectations from somebody in your position. Like let's say maybe Pakistani community is thinking of, she's a Pakistani, so she should be focusing more on Pakistanis, or Muslim that should. While no such expectation is held for us, like we're physicians, nobody comes and tells us, "Hey, you're a Pakistani physician. Why aren't you treating Pakistanis and Muslims differently than you're treating?"
You can't.
No, because that's not
your profession. Your profession is to treat your patients,
and that same
goes
for
me. Yes. I have to respect the wishes of my voters.
Right. Yes. Because that's what you were elected to do.
Exactly.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's a very important point to bring home to our community, to also our religious community too. Because and I think if the job that you do and you do it in a commendable fashion, that alone should be sufficient for other people to see that we as Muslims, even if we come from a different national background, we're still capable of doing a good job over here as an American politician, and that kind of sets the path for future generations to emulate what Ms. Haider is doing over here. That's a great conversation. Actually, I think that was a very important point to bring home to our community. Just touching back on your work as an activist in Pakistan and then your political career over here. How do they differ? Do you think the political processes in both the countries are extremely different?
Yes.
Yeah.
The political systems are different. The political parties function differently. And that goes not just for Pakistan, that's worldwide. Every country has their own political culture.
Yes, agreed.
Every country has there's a parliamentary form of government, there's the presidential, there are other sorts of governments. So based on that, the political culture in that country or the politics of that country will be different. That is the way life is, really, know. So I don't think we can say, oh, this is different from America. It is going to be different from America because it's a different system of government. It's a different way the politicians are elected.
Right.
So
just to phrase it differently, maybe, you had no political backgrounds in either of those countries, right? You were not a politician's daughter.
No, not at all.
No,
not at all.
Here, or your husband didn't have any political contacts over here, and you navigated your way up politically in both the countries. So, would you say that, or was it equally easy for you to go up the political ladder over here? I mean, I know you back in Pakistan, you were just kind of starting off, so you didn't really.
No, I was not running for office.
anything,
I was
yeah.
not. I was just rabble rousing.
Okay.
I was not running for office.
Right.
I was not doing any of that over
Right,
there.
right.
So, but whatever we did,
Mhm.
I think there's one thing common. I think which, if you really want to do something, everywhere you must have some passion to do it. You
Right,
know.
that's true. Yeah, nothing comes without passion.
You know, you talk about dynastic politics. I don't know if there's passion in that.
Right, probably not.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, oh, hey, your dad's a doctor. You have to be a doctor.
Yeah.
Right.
But I think that if you have the passion, you can make it work.
Whatever
one
you
way.
are.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think so. If you believe in it enough, I mean, I know it sounds idealistic,
Right.
but I think it really works. If you really believe in something, and not for a moment should you think anything like this is easy. I mean, I told you I lost 2
No, I'm
elections.
sure it's not.
But you know, sometimes our candidates win, sometimes our candidates lose. This happens all the time. But the thing is, if you're engaged enough, if you're passionate enough about
Mm-hmm.
it, you'll keep going.
And do you think the process is more democratic here? Because there's no dynasty politics over here. There's no familial politics. There's no generational politics
There
over
are some here and there, few families where the sons and the fathers and all, but the process definitely more democratic. You know,
Yeah. Okay.
it's definitely more. I mean, look, everywhere in the world,
Mm-hmm.
there will always be what is referred to as backroom politics.
Oh, definitely.
That's a fact of life.
Right.
And if people think that, oh no, it should be only as above board and then nothing would happen ever.
Right. Yeah.
You know, politics
That's
is the art.
unrealistic,
The
right?
unrealistic
Yeah.
politics is all about compromise. You have to make compromises, and you never make compromises in front of a public rally.
Yeah.
You know, so I think, and compromise is good because it gets you to a solution. It moves you forward. It breaks the log jam. So I think compromise and moving ahead is not bad. It's not something to be looked down upon.
Right.
So that institution of the politics, the compromising, the back room, that I think is everywhere.
That's universal. That's universal.
Look, it's part of human nature.
Yeah.
It happens in our own families.
Right.
Think about families,
True.
how in families,
There's
how the background politics of families goes on. So the world is after all one big family.
Yeah.
So I think there's certain things that will always happen, and
Right.
they're necessary part of it, you know. But I think the process of electing, and also the not just the process, the method of electing, the processes here are free of corruption.
Yeah.
Voting machines are reliable.
True.
Nobody's running away with a box of votes anywhere.
Right.
People are not standing outside and creating. I mean, you see it all over the world when there are elections. You see so much trouble going on.
Right.
Anyway, I've seen it in African countries, and Caribbean countries, and
Right.
even in European
Yeah.
countries.
True.
You know, so
Even this time around,
Even
over
this-
here, right?
what was January 6th?
Yeah.
It was the lowest point in our history in America.
So it happens everywhere.
It happens everywhere, but that's a breakdown.
Right.
On a general note, I think the elections are fair, and of course there are always ways to influence elections.
Yeah.
But I think nobody is going to able to harass you at the ballot box.
Yeah.
I hope.
Yeah.
I mean, there's still instances where we've seen people turn up heavily armed
Right.
in certain states. I can't speak to that.
Yeah. But generally,
Generally.
you hope that it's a fair
Generally,
process.
it's a fair process. That's very important. That if I vote, I know that my vote has been counted.
Yeah. One more thing. Again, it's a little related to your background. So, being a Pakistani, and we know that over the years, Pakistan's relationships with US have been tumultuous. Sometimes we've been great allies, great friends, holding hands. Sometimes it's not been that amicable. So has that ever impacted your political journey over here?
No.
No.
Relations with the US, with Pakistan, are a factor of global politics.
Right.
Because what happened in after the Soviet invasion, what happened between how the relationship was built was because of the Soviet invasion, and then what happened when the Taliban came, and so all these things are global politics, and
it doesn't trickle down to this level.
No, I'm not voting on sending arms to any country, so I have nothing to do with that.
Right.
Your federal government.
Right.
That's where it happens.
Right. And it doesn't impact people's attitude towards you either, right?
No, I haven't had anybody come up to me and say, "Oh, what is the relationship?" People are more interested in their day-to-day life.
Right. True.
They want to know. Okay, my landlord is trying to throw me out. Can you help me
with that?
Be eviction?
They don't care if you're.
I'm not getting my driver's license is stuck at motor vehicles. Can you do something for that? Or my son needs an internship. Can he come and work in your office? People are not worrying about global. Most people in the world don't really worry about global.
That's true. Yeah.
I'll say one thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know that the relations between India and Pakistan are traditionally bad. Right? Mm-hmm. Over the years, as long as I've been living and not knowing.
Yes.
But when you come here, do you really have a bad relationship with your Indian neighbor?
No, some of my best friends are Indians.
Not at all.
Yes.
We get along famously.
Yes.
We have great...
and we have so much in common.
We have so much in common.
Yeah.
A lot of us can speak the language together.
Yes.
Even I have a friend who speaks Malayalam.
Yeah.
He's not Hindi speaking, but he and I can relate because we have similar cultures. We have, so we're not at odds. People are never at odds with them.
My sons, my son who's born here, his best friends are Indians.
My son's best friend, they're visiting him right now.
Yeah. Yes.
So it's like, and the same thing happens everywhere.
Yeah.
It's not the people who are driving the relationship. It's the global politics that is driving.
Right.
It's happening at a very different stratosphere.
Yeah.
And we on the ground with our neighbors sharing the biryani,
we're doing fine.
We're doing fine.
Yeah.
I swear I will say one thing. I'm not a foreign policy or a homeland security expert, but I truly believe that if you allow people to cross borders and meet and mingle with other people, half the problems of this world would go. If we had an open border with, say, let's talk India, Pakistan. If they permitted people to go across borders and meet with each other, do you really think that level of animosity would remain? No. People don't want animosity.
False propaganda.
People don't want animosity.
No,
People on all sides are good.
Yeah.
I've never met somebody on a local level that I've thought to myself, oh my God, this person is evil. Never.
Yeah, true.
Never.
Yeah.
People are good.
Yeah. And nobody wakes up with an even intent in the morning, right?
Never.
Yeah.
People are, and I'm not just talking India, Pakistan, think about all the other places.
Yeah.
You will not carry animosity towards people because they're good.
True. And what you said is very encouraging, I think, for Pakistani diaspora and other people around who are not like traditionally or Americans, because that just tells you that it doesn't matter where you're coming from, it doesn't matter what religion you belong to, as long as you're willing to work hard and do your job, you can get to wherever you want to be.
Absolutely. This is truly the land of opportunity.
Right.
If you're willing to put your shoulder to it, you're going to make it here.
Right.
That really, in this country, it doesn't. There's always going to be pockets of bigotry, and that happens everywhere.
Yeah, and that's
human nature.
Yeah.
That's universal. Mm-hmm. But by and large, no. This is the place where if you put your heart to it, you can do what you want to do.
Right.
Nobody can stop you.
So younger Pakistanis, younger Muslims who are aspiring for political careers, who are aspiring to go to higher levels, climbing the political ladder, I think that's a great message, right?
Absolutely. Go for it. I would like to tell everybody, go for it.
Yeah.
And another thing which I've been telling people is, if, Desis generally and Muslims by and large, but not just Muslims, I've heard women from Hispanic communities complain about it also. We don't get engaged in the process.
Right.
get engaged, become regular voters.
Because we think we can make it. And that's just an example right here that you can.
Get engaged in the process. If you don't want to run for office, you're running for office, help you run for office.
Right.
You don't want to run for office, you don't have the time to help somebody, write them a check.
Yeah. Help them in whatever
Help
way you
them
can.
in whatever way you can.
Yeah.
Be part of the process.
Right.
And then if you create this block, people will say, oh, wait a minute. This group of Muslims, they're constantly engaged. They come out and vote. They're supporting candidates. They have a voice. I have to pay attention to them.
Right.
That's how you get yourself in the process.
True. So by doing the job, by helping others get to where they need to be, you are advocating for your community, for your religion, for your nationality. And that's how you make yourself heard. And that's how you establish your identity.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think that's a great message. Thank you for a lovely conversation. It was
My
so
pleasure.
invigorating. Thank you.
I love meeting you too. Thank you so much.